Hey guys, Sak here from SAKITECH, and in today's video what we're going to do is we are going to be doing a camera test comparison between the Google Pixel 6 Pro versus the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. The video is going to be three parts. First, we're going to look at the camera, such as macro, telephoto, wide, ultra wide. Then we are going to look at the video quality and video stabilization and the microphone quality. And finally, we'll look at night photography and then we'll do a conclusion. So let's dive in and get started right away. Alright, so the very first thing we want to take a look at is the macro capabilities. So the S21 has a dedicated macro mode. Pixel does not, but we're going to use the 4x optical zoom on the Pixel to see what we can get. Now you can see these photos side by side. They both look good at this size, but as you zoom in closer and look at the details, obviously because the S21 has the specialized macro mode, it's going to get you more detail. And here's another example. You can look at this leaf. This is a tiny piece of a leaf. And again, you get more detail with the S21. So if you want a macro camera, you're going to have to go with the S21. Now let's move on and look at the zooming capabilities and the clarity. So the Pixel can provide us 4x optical zoom and 20x hybrid zoom, while the S21 can do 10x optical zoom and 100x hybrid zoom. Let's look at some side-by-side photos around the same zoom range to see which one gives you better details. Now, in this first photo, interestingly enough, at 20 times, the Pixel is actually better. But the next few examples, you're going to see that the S21 is going to take the lead. In this next photo, they seem a little bit comparable, but the S21 is actually better when you crop into it. So sometimes, based on different lighting conditions, they behave a little bit differently, as you saw from the first example. But then the S21 Ultra has the 100 times zooming capability, which has been improved by software updates over time. And look at that, it's 100 times, and you can read the text pretty clearly. And of course, Pixel tops at 20x. Now here's a photo. I'm going to zoom into the sign over there that I circled. Let's see how they perform again. So you can see in this photo, the S21 is in fact clearer. And also, if we do a super zoom, 100x zoom, you can see we can get much more detail from far away subjects. Personally, I don't use 100x zoom that much, rarely to be honest. So I don't know how big of a deal it is, but it's based on your choices. So if this is something you want, again, you want to lean towards the S21. But just out of curiosity, if I were to zoom in on the Pixel's image, it does retain a good amount of detail. Still not as clear as the S21, but not too bad. Now here's the selfie portrait mode. I think they both look great. The one benefit that Pixel has is when you activate the wide mode, which you can do both on the S21 and the Pixel, so the Pixel selfie wide mode is going to be able to fit more things in it, more people in it, if that's something you do. Now let's move on and take a look at the main camera, the wide camera and the ultra wide camera, and compare and contrast. Alright, so here we have some photos side by side, and let's be honest, they both have excellent detail and quality. The only big difference is the color reproduction. I zoomed into these photos on my computer. I pixel peeped them. There really is no major difference in quality. These are both flagship cameras. And here's an example. I zoomed in onto these photos. They have virtually identical quality and clarity. Here's a photo taken with the S21. I'm showing you the larger version so you can see the details. And here's the Pixel equivalent. In my eyes, other than the color reproduction, almost the same quality. Here's the S21. Let's wait for the Pixel, and here we have the Pixel. Basically, the difference is going to boil down to what color reproduction do you prefer? What looks better to your eyes? Alright, just a final example, and now let's move on to ultra-wide shots. Now the colors on the S21 seem to be a little bit more saturated in the ultra-wide camera, but the biggest difference here that I'm noticing is that the ultra-wide on the S21 is a little bit wider than the one on the Pixel, so it tends to capture a little bit more. And here's the Pixel's ultra wide. Again, as you can see, it's not as wide as the S21. And with the ultra wide, the color reproduction is not always consistent. In this photo, the Pixel seems a little bit more saturated than the S21. But bottom line, I think the quality on both of these phones is excellent. Now, one last thing I want to talk about in relation to photos is Pixel has this brand new motion mode. So if you take a normal photo, it looks like this. But if you take it with the motion mode, when there's some motion involved, like the water in this case, it turns it into this, making it look really nice and cool. It adds a creative blur, as they call it, to make the photo look more artistic. So that's a nice little thing to play with, and I hope Samsung brings something like that to the table as well. Alright, now let's move on and talk about the video quality of these products. The first thing I'm going to look at is the stabilization at 1080p and 4K as I'm walking. So first I want to walk on an even terrain, so it's pretty smooth. So as you can see, stabilization excellent. I'm walking, it's 100% handheld, and you can observe again there are some differences in the colors, but the details are great and the stabilization is great on this even surface. Now let's walk over an uneven terrain so you can see they're very similar. They both have slight vibration as my step hits the ground. There's slight vibration, but they're very similar. Now this here is a special mode. This is the super steady stabilization mode on the Galaxy, and also known as the active stabilization on the Pixel. I think the Pixel is better because there are more vibrations and distortions on the S21. Now as far as 4K is concerned, at 30 frames per second, I think they both look pretty much the same. Very slight distortions, but looks like the Pixel has a little bit more than the S21. But nothing dramatic in this case. Next up, let's see how the lenses switch during recording a video. So I'm going to go from ultra wide to standard. Very slight lag there. And then I'm going to go to telephoto. Let's see what happens. Okay, a little bit lag there too. Let's compare the Pixel. Alright, ultra wide, standard, there's lag. And then we're going to go to telephoto. There we go. Neither phone is as smooth as an iPhone during these transitions. Now let's listen to the microphone quality of both of these phones as I'm recording video in the nature. First, the S21. Alright, so now we have 1080p at 60 frames per second front-facing camera, and you can also observe the voice quality that the microphones capture. And here's the Pixel. So what we have here is 1080p, 60 frames per second, and you can also check the microphone quality for the front-facing camera. We can also do 4K at 60 frames per second with the camera on the S21, so you can see the quality of this as well. Okay, so with the front-facing camera, we can only do 4K at 30 frames per second on the Pixel, but again, you can look at the quality right from here. Alright, so let's move on and talk about the final part. That's going to be the night photography. So night mode is somewhat of an insanity. So these photos that you're looking at were taken in near pitch black darkness with a small source of light behind me, but quite far away. Now this example here I think is pretty close with both phones. Now here's an ultra wide shot. This one, the Pixel is actually cleaner than the S21 Ultra. And this one here, the Pixel is a little bit brighter, but also it doesn't actually look like night at this point. It starts to look like it's morning. Now let me first show you how dark it actually is, and then I'm going to show you guys how the night mode works on these phones. So this is where I was standing at. As you can see, it's almost pitch black, and this is what the phones turn it into. And boom, this is what we got. So like I said, they're both pretty good, but the Pixel ended up impressing me more, especially in this next example I'm going to show you guys. So this is the way it looked to me in real life. Almost complete pitch black, and this is what it turned into. So in this instance, the Pixel did a much better job, but it also makes it looks like it's almost daylight, as opposed to the Galaxy, which looks a little bit more realistic nighttime. But I'm finding out that the night mode is inconsistent. Sometimes the Pixel does better, sometimes the S21 does better. So in this example, we have a better shot on the S21. It's cleaner, less noise. Alright, so looks like we have looked at just about everything. Alright, so here's what's going on, and it's slightly complicated. So when it comes to macro photos and photos where you need to zoom in, S21 has a lead. When it comes to nighttime photos, the Pixel is able to brighten a dark area better. When it comes to daytime photos, using the wide or ultra-wide lenses, both phones are phenomenal quality-wise, but S21's ultra-wide is wider. When it comes to selfies, Pixel is slightly better, especially because it has a wider selfie camera, so more things or people can fit into the photo for people that actually care about this kind of stuff. When it comes to the video, S20 Ultra has a mild lead. When I carefully inspected the videos, the S21 had a little bit more detail in the overall video, but nothing dramatic. It can also record 8K if you want it to. So the conclusion is both cameras are fantastic, with each having a strength of their own over the other. S21 Ultra is certainly a more versatile camera with more extreme options. Like I said, it can record in 8K, it can zoom in 100 times, but those are features most people don't really use all the time. And then there's the price. The Pixel is $900 and the S21 Ultra is $1,200. The better value for the money is Pixel if all one cares about is the camera. So basically, you have to make a choice on what features and what price point is more important to you and make a decision based on that. And that's it. Any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them down below. Let me know. For now, guys, have a fantastic day, all right?